Instructor Thelvan stood at the podium in the tactical classroom, his crystalline body refracting the blue light from the holographic star map behind him. His 4 diamond pattern eyes focused on the newest transfer student as she sat in the 3rd row, writing in a small paper notebook while he explained the combat simulation parameters. The other cadets whispered and pointed. Cadet Morrix, the Scarian with dark green scales and a row of combat medals pinned to his uniform, leaned toward his neighbor. Is she actually taking notes? With a pen? Thelvan's body shifted slightly toward pale amber, mild irritation. He continued his briefing, gesturing with one crystalline arm toward the holographic display, while holding his datapad in the other. The simulation will pit you against adaptive AI opponents. Victory conditions include tactical superiority, resource management, and... The human, Cadet Laurel, raised her hand without looking up from her notebook. Thelvan's internal. Harmonics chimed softly.
Yes, Cadet?
What's the AI's reaction time threshold? She kept writing. 2.3 milliseconds. He tilted his angular head. Why? Just noting it. She flipped a page. Morrix's forked tongue flicked out in amusement. His amber eyes narrowed. Planning to write them a strongly worded letter, human? Several cadets laughed. Laurel didn't look up.
Hilarious.
She drew a small diagram in her
Seriously, that's just
notebook.
too much. No reaction at all.
Thelvan's spine ridge caught the light as he straightened. Cadet Morrix,
Focus on your own preparation.
the simulation begins in 10 minutes. He gestured towards the door with one arm, while his other held up the datapad. Proceed to the combat simulation chamber. The cadets filed out. Laurel tucked her pen behind her ear and followed, still reading her notes. Morrix deliberately bumped her shoulder as he passed. She stumbled slightly, her notebook slipping from her hand and scattering loose pages across the floor. Careful, human. Morrix's crest flattened in what passed for a Scarian smirk. The simulation is much more physical than note-taking. Laurel knelt and gathered her papers without comment. Thelvan noticed each page was covered in dense writing, small sketches, and what appeared to be mathematical formulas. She organized them with quick, precise movements, then stood and walked toward the exit. Thelvan's body remained clear, neutral curiosity. He followed the cadets into the corridor, his footsteps creating soft, crystalline clicks against the metal floor. The combat simulation chamber stretched 40 meters in every direction, its white walls humming with barely visible holographic projectors. Raised observation platforms ringed the space. Training equipment lined one wall, combat barriers, weapon racks, tactical displays. The cadets assembled in the center. Morrix rolled his shoulders and checked his simulated weapon systems, scales gleaming under the bright overhead lights. The other cadets stretched and reviewed their gear. Laurel stood apart, flipping through her notebook. Thelvan climbed the observation platform, his crystalline fingers wrapping around the railing. He activated his datapad with one hand while gesturing toward the simulation controls with the other. Cadets, this is a standard tactical engagement scenario. Your objective is to neutralize hostile forces while minimizing casualties. The simulation adapts to your performance. Begin when ready. Morrix immediately barked orders to the other cadets, organizing them into a standard formation. His tongue flicked out as he analyzed the chamber. 3-pronged attack pattern, flank coverage, standard. Instructor? Laurel raised her hand again, notebook tucked under her arm. Thelvan's body shifted subtly toward Amber. Yes, Cadet? May I take a tactical observation position for this run? I'd like to document the baseline performance parameters. The other cadets stared. Morrix's scales actually darkened. The Scarian equivalent of a flushed face. You want to sit out? I want to observe. Laurel opened her notebook to a fresh page. Collect data. You're afraid, Morrix said flatly. His crest rose. Humans and their weakness. Laurel looked at him for the first time, her expression unchanged. I'm thorough. Thelvan's harmonics chimed. Confusion. He'd never had a cadet request to skip combat training. His 4 eyes studied her calm face, then the notebook in her hands. Protocol said cadets must participate, but protocol also said instructors could approve tactical observation roles for educational purposes. Approved. His crystalline body remained amber. Take position on the western platform. Morrix's jaw dropped open, exposing rows of sharp teeth. Instructor, that's... Begin simulation, Thelvan announced. The chamber walls flickered, generating a holographic urban combat zone. Laurel climbed the platform and sat cross-legged on the metal grating, pen in hand. She began writing immediately. The simulation launched hostile targets, adaptive AI combatants that appeared from cover points, flanked, coordinated. Morrix led the assault with aggressive precision. He was good. Top combat scores for a reason. His movements were efficient, his tactical calls appropriate. But Thelvan watched the human. Laurel wrote constantly. Her eyes tracked every cadet movement, every AI response pattern, every tactical decision. When Morrix overextended to secure a forward position, she made a note. When another cadet's cover discipline failed, she made a note. When the AI exploited a gap in their formation, she made a note. The simulation lasted 12 minutes. The cadets won. Barely. 2 simulated casualties, inefficient resource usage, and sloppy formation maintenance. Morrix stood in the center of the chamber, breathing heavily. His scales were slick with exertion. Acceptable performance, he announced to the others. Then he looked up at Laurel. Did you get all that written down, human? Maybe you can write us a nice report. Laurel closed her notebook and stood. I did, actually. Thank you. Thelvan's body shifted through amber toward clear again. Cadets, debrief in the classroom. 15 minutes. He gestured toward the exit with one arm, while his other tapped commands into his datapad. The cadets filed out, laughing and reviewing their performance. Morrix clapped another cadet on the shoulder, his earlier irritation replaced with satisfied confidence. Laurel descended the platform last. She passed Thelvan without speaking. Cadet. His voice resonated through his crystalline structure. May I see your notes? She stopped and handed him the notebook without hesitation. Thelvan held it in both hands, his 4 eyes scanning the pages. His body temperature dropped slightly. Crystalline beings did that when surprised. The notes weren't casual observations. They were detailed tactical analyses, response time measurements, formation weakness documentation, AI pattern, recognition. Each cadet's mistake was cataloged with precision. Each successful AI exploitation was diagrammed. One page had a heading, Morrix, exploitable tendencies. Below it, overextends when confident, predictable flanking preference, left side. Ignores vertical threats, cover discipline fails under pressure. Telegraphs attacks, crest rises 0.4 seconds before engagement. Reaction time to peripheral threats, 0.8 seconds, slow. Thelvan's spine ridge actually scraped against his tactical harness as his posture shifted. His harmonics created a low, confused tone. These are very thorough. I like to be prepared. Laurel took the notebook back. May I participate in the next simulation? His body flickered amber to clear to amber. You wish to participate now? I have sufficient baseline data. She opened to a blank page. I'd like to test some hypotheses. Hypotheses? The word came out as a crystalline chime. Tactical hypotheses. She clicked her pen. About optimal engagement sequences. Morrix's voice echoed from the corridor. Come on, human! We're waiting to hear your extensive notes. Laurel glanced toward the exit, then back at Thelvan. So, is that approved? Thelvan's 4 eyes studied her face. She looked completely ordinary. Calm, professional, perhaps slightly boring. But the notebook in her hands contained the most comprehensive tactical analysis he'd seen from a cadet in 15 years of teaching. Approved, he said slowly. His body remained stubbornly amber. Second simulation in 1 hour? Thank you, Instructor. Laurel walked towards the exit. Thelvan looked down at his datapad, then back at the empty chamber. One of his crystalline hands absently touched the ridge along his spine. Something felt wrong. Not dangerous, just incorrect, like a calculation that didn't balance. He shook his head, or the crystalline equivalent, and followed the cadets. The classroom debrief was standard. Morrix dominated the discussion, reviewing successful tactics and dismissing mistakes as minor coordination issues. The other cadets nodded along, adding their own observations. Laurel sat in the 3rd row, reading her notes. Human. Morrix turned in his seat, scales catching the light. Share your observations with the class. You had such a nice view. Several cadets snickered. Laurel looked up. You overextend when confident. Your flanking pattern is predictable. You ignore vertical threat axes. Your cover discipline deteriorates under pressure, and your crest rises 0.4 seconds before you attack, which telegraphs your intentions. The classroom went silent. Morrix's scales flushed dark green. Anger. His tongue flicked rapidly. That's... Also, your peripheral reaction time is slow, 0.8 seconds. The AI exploited that twice during the simulation. She returned to her notes. You didn't notice because you were focused forward. Thelvan's body shifted to amber so quickly it created a soft harmonic ring. He stood at the podium, both hands gripping its edges. Cadet Laurel, that's accurate. I was watching, she said simply. Morrix stood, his chair scraping loudly. You think you could do better, human? His crest rose fully. Sitting safely while we fought? I don't know yet. Laurel made another note. That's why I want to participate in the next simulation, to test variables. Variables. Morrix's jaw clenched. Combat isn't mathematics. Laurel met his eyes. Her expression remained neutral. Everything is mathematics. Thelvan's harmonics chimed with uncomfortable intensity. Cadets, dismissed. Next simulation in 45 minutes. Prepare accordingly. The cadets filed out. Morrix deliberately knocked Laurel's notebook off her desk as he passed. It hit the floor with a slap, pages scattering again. Laurel knelt and gathered them systematically. She organized each page by number, aligned the edges, and tucked the notebook under her arm. Thelvan approached, his crystalline feet clicking. Cadet, if you antagonize Morrix, I'm not antagonizing anyone. She stood. He asked for my observations. I provided them. He's the top combat student in this academy. I know. I watched him. She headed toward the door. See you in 45 minutes, Instructor. Thelvan stood alone in the classroom, his body stuck at amber, watching her leave. His 4 eyes tracked her movement until she disappeared into the corridor. Then he looked down at his datapad and pulled up her academy file. Transfer student. Mediocre combat scores from her previous institution. No special certifications. No noteworthy achievements. Average physical assessments. Completely unremarkable. Except for the notebook. His crystalline fingers tapped the datapad. He pulled up the previous simulation's recorded data and compared it to the notes he'd glimpsed in her book. Every observation was accurate. Every weakness she'd documented was real. Every number was correct. Thelvan's body shifted slowly toward deeper amber. His harmonics created an uncertain, wavering tone. He saved her file and headed toward the combat simulation chamber early. He wanted to review the simulation parameters before the next run. Something told him he should be prepared. 45 minutes later, the cadets assembled in the combat simulation chamber again. Morrix stood at the center, his posture aggressive. His scales gleamed with anticipation. Laurel entered last, notebook tucked under her arm, pen behind her ear. Thelvan climbed the observation platform. His crystalline body remained stubbornly amber, mild alarm that wouldn't fade. He activated his datapad with one hand while adjusting the simulation controls with the other. Second tactical engagement scenario. Same parameters. Cadet Laurel has requested active participation. Morrix's tongue flicked. Finally decided to actually fight human? Laurel removed the pen from behind her ear and opened her notebook. She read, silently for a moment, flipped several pages, then closed it and tucked it under her arm. Ready when you are, Instructor. Does your book tell you how to hold a weapon? Morrix's crest rose mockingly. No. Laurel checked her simulated gear with practiced movements. It tells me where you'll be standing in 18 seconds, which angle you'll attack from, and exactly how long it takes you to realize you've been flanked. Morrix's scales paled slightly, just a shade. His eyes narrowed. Confident words. Statistical probability. Laurel's expression remained calm. Begin simulation, Instructor? Thelvan's body shifted through amber toward crimson. Danger response. His four eyes locked onto the human standing casually in the center of the chamber. His spine ridge scraped against his harness again. His harmonics created a high, stressed tone. Begin simulation, he said quietly. The chamber walls flickered. The holographic urban combat zone materialized. And Cadet Laurel smiled for the first time. It was not a nice smile. The simulation spawned hostile targets at standard intervals. Morrix immediately moved to establish formation, his scales gleaming as he barked tactical orders to the other cadets. Laurel walked calmly to the western perimeter and crouched behind a simulated barrier. Humans hiding again, one cadet muttered. Morrix's tongue flicked in satisfaction. Stay in cover, human. Watch the real soldiers work. Thelvan's crystalline body flickered crimson to amber to crimson. His four eyes tracked Laurel's position. She wasn't hiding. She was counting. Her lips moved silently, marking time. At exactly 18 seconds, Morrix moved to flank left, his predictable pattern. Laurel stepped out from cover and shot him. The simulated round hit Morrix square in the chest. His combat display flashed red, eliminated. His entire body went rigid, scales paling from dark green to sickly yellow. What? You always flank left when confident, Laurel said, already moving. 18-second average response time after simulation start. You stood exactly where my notes said you would. She'd disappeared behind another barrier before Morrix could respond. Thelvan's harmonics created a sharp, crystalline shriek. His body blazed full crimson, maximum alarm. Both hands gripped the observation railing so tightly his fingers created stress fractures in the metal. The other cadets hesitated, confused by Morrix's instant elimination. That hesitation cost them. Laurel moved through the simulation like she'd memorized every pixel. She had. When a cadet took cover behind the eastern barrier, the one with the documented structural weakness, she shot through it. When another cadet attempted a vertical flanking maneuver, she was already aiming at the landing zone. Every movement was precise, clinical, Inevitable. Target 2, eliminated. Cover discipline failed after 41 seconds of sustained pressure, exactly as documented. She reloaded while moving. Target 3, eliminated. Predictable movement pattern. Variation coefficient of only 0.2. Another cadet dropped, their combat display flashing red. Thelvan's spine ridge scraped loudly against his harness. His body color shifted so rapidly between crimson and amber, it created a strobing effect. His internal harmonics sounded like shattering glass. Laurel paused behind cover and pulled out her notebook. She flipped it open with one hand, still holding her weapon with the other. Target 4 should attempt aggressive close-quarters advancement in approximately 3 seconds. A cadet charged her position. Laurel didn't even look up from her notes. She sidestepped, extended her weapon arm, and fired without aiming. The round caught the charging cadet mid-stride. 3.1 seconds. Acceptable variance. She made a small notation in her book. Morrix stood frozen at the chamber's edge, his simulated combat display still flashing red. His scales had gone completely pale, translucent yellow that exposed the darker tissue beneath. His forked tongue hung limply. She's calculating, Laurel said, emerging from cover. She walked toward the final 2 cadets' positions with measured steps. You all have patterns, behavioral tendencies, predictable responses to specific stimuli. She checked her notebook again. Target 5 will attempt tactical retreat in 4, 3, 2. A cadet broke from cover, running toward better positioning. Laurel shot them mid-stride. 1. Excellent. She closed the notebook and tucked it under her arm. The final cadet, young, inexperienced, simply stood up from cover and raised their hands. Their voice shook. I surrender. Laurel tilted her head. The simulation doesn't have surrender protocols. I don't care. The cadet's weapon clattered to the ground. I'm not fighting you. Laurel shrugged and shot them anyway. Their display flashed red. The simulation ended. Total elapsed. Time, 4 minutes, 12 seconds. The chamber fell silent except for Thelvan's harmonics, which had risen to a pitch that made the observation platform vibrate. Laurel opened her notebook and began writing. Personal performance errors, hesitated 0.3 seconds before engaging target 2, suboptimal positioning during reload sequence. Reaction time to target 4's charge was adequate, but not optimal. Should have anticipated 0.2 seconds earlier based on established stress patterns. She was critiquing herself. Thelvan's crystalline body remained locked at deep crimson. His 4 eyes were fixed on the human standing calmly in the center of the chamber, writing in her little notebook like she'd just completed a mildly interesting math problem. Morrix's scales had gone beyond pale. They were nearly transparent. His tongue finally retracted with a wet sound. The whole time, you were calculating kill sequences, Laurel confirmed without looking up. Yes, first simulation was data collection, combat patterns, response times, tactical tendencies, physiological tells. She flipped back several pages. Your crest, for example, excellent predictor of aggressive action, rose 0.4 seconds before every engagement. Very consistent. You were planning how to kill us, Morrix's voice came out as a rasp. While we laughed at you. I was collecting data, Laurel corrected. The killing was just applied mathematics. She made another note. Though killing is dramatic, these were simulated eliminations based on calculated probability matrices. Thelvan's spine ridge had scraped completely through his tactical harness straps. They hung in tatters. His harmonics had reached a frequency that made his entire body visibly vibrate. Cadet Laurel, report to the observation platform. Now. Laurel climbed the platform stairs, still writing. She stopped beside him, pen moving steadily across the page. Thelvan's crystalline hands trembled. Both of them. His 4 eyes struggled to focus on her calm, unremarkable face. What are you? Thorough, she said. I mentioned that earlier. You systematically eliminated 7 cadets in 4 minutes using nothing but observations from a single simulation. 4 minutes, 12 seconds, she corrected, checking her notes. And yes, that was the hypothesis. Whether documented tactical patterns could predict combat outcomes with sufficient reliability for systematic exploitation. You treated them like an equation. Combat is an equation. Laurel looked up at him for the first time since entering the simulation. Her expression remained neutral. Variables include response time, tactical preferences, physiological stress indicators, environmental factors, and weapon proficiency. Solve for optimal engagement sequence. It's not complicated. Thelvan's body